Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, could Steve Wilks be a possible candidate for the DC for the Falcons?
And yes, we know they almost blew it, but guess what? They got the dub, and this is also why they went out and got that guy.
And last but not least, and for the culture, Netflix need to mind they damn business. It's ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit fanduel.com/Locked On today to get started. But T, when you think about this DC search for the Atlanta Falcons, there have been some really good names. We're talking about Vic Fangio, Brian Flores, names like that, internal candidates, Frank Bush. There have been some really good names people can get behind, but I think this candidate will be very, very interesting. Now, we know that Steve Wilks is one of the final two candidates, along with Frank Reich, as far as the head coaching position for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
However, our homegirl Sheena Quick is reporting that the Falcons are, quote, monitoring that situation very closely. And Frank Reich has caught a lot of steam, and David Tepper, you know how he can fall in love with people really quickly. If the Carolina Panthers hire Frank Reich as their head coach, T, how does Falcons defensive coordinator Steve Wilks sound to you?
It sounds like at least 2 wins in the NFC South by default in the fall. Let's start right there. But yeah, he is a guy who we saw up front, up close and personal by covering the Falcons. And of course, when they played the Panthers this season, we saw a team that was ready under Steve Wilks' leadership, a team that was always ready and a team that competed just like the Falcons did, surprisingly, almost until the end. So if you can get out of Steve Wilks what he at least saw in his days as an interim head coach, coupled with the fact that he has that defensive mindset, I think we would be in a really, really good position. Also, being that he was the interim head coach in DC for the Panthers, he has familiarity with many of the guys on the Falcons team. And I feel like that would also be a positive for the Falcons because, hey, it's like, okay, you've seen Grady Jarrett actually for several years now. So you kind of have an idea of what it is that, he brings to the table, if you will. So I think that's a positive. Or even if we take someone like a rookie, like an Arnold Ebiketie, you already kind of know what you're working with because he's another guy that you have seen at least for this year. And you can say, I bet when you're on the other side saying, that could be somebody that, wow, he could give us trouble in the future. But if you can work with him, hey, that's a good look as well. And for somebody who obviously the Falcons were kind of always hybrid, Jarvis, right? We would agree, technically 3-4, but always really hybrid. He, of course, brings the 4-3, which is what the Panthers ran. But again, not a bad thing because at the end of the day, what Dean Pease ran was mostly hybrid anyway. So I think that could be a positive. Of course, we're always rooting for him to get a head coaching position, but should he not get that job with the Panthers, yeah, come on down 85 South. There would be a place for you.
And Steve Wilks is very versatile as well because, we're having to working with those big guys up front and running that odd front because we know Big Derrick Brown gave all type of problems all up and down that line of scrimmage against the Atlanta Falcons when they played against them. So Steve Wilks is a very versatile guy, and that's exactly what Arthur Smith is looking for when it comes to a defensive play calling. And I think that the one interesting thing too that I feel like he may have bring somebody with him because once he took over as the interim head coach, Phil Snow was a DC in Carolina, and he put his boy at DC, Al Holcomb. There's some rumors or some talk that he may bring Al Holcomb with him because Al ain't sticking around for all the foolishness. Now he said, my boy ain't get the head coaching gig, I'm out too. So yeah, you getting a 2-for-1. I'm talking about when you're talking about defensive prowess, and guys that have experience as head
Mm-hmm.
coach, and Wilks has experience as a head coach as well. So those are the type of things that can mean nothing but positive for the Atlanta Falcons if that were to come about. We'll
Yeah.
definitely keep a close eye on both of those situations as they come about. Now, one thing I was kind of tweeting out the other day, and it made me think about, like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like teams seem to be really taking their time when it comes to like trying to really vet these head coaching candidates, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past there's been candidates come out, and you got the Tom Pelisseros and the Adam Schefters of the world, like, yep, such and
Right.
such is the favorite, and then
Mm-hmm.
24 hours later he's hired, and nah,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the case. And then they'll
Right.
throw a black man in there, like, yeah, they interviewed the special teams coordinator,
Mm-hmm. Right. Check.
you know,
The
yeah,
special teams coordinator's assistant.
yeah, they interviewed the special teams coordinator's assistant that was already in house.
Right.
Convenient. How about that?
Yes.
But I think now I really feel like it seems as if that you're really starting to see the vetting process kind of stretch out a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think the more this vetting process stretches out with these owners and who they talk to, I
Mm-hmm.
believe like minority candidates are going to start getting more opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
be head coaches. Because we talked about the front office side and how that seemed like it's working. But
Mm-hmm.
when the Rooney Rule, what it was actually built for, it
Yeah.
seems like, mate, this might be something we might be making some headway here.
Yeah. And because of what you just said, the Rooney Rule actually working, and it's mostly for the coaching side, but it seems to be working better for the front office hires. But that's favorable, maybe eventually favorable for the head coaches as well. Because when you think about an example that we talked about even earlier today, how if you're looking at Anthony Lynn and you're looking at Thomas Brown and they're up for OC gigs, the Commanders interviewed them, for example. These are guys who, when you look at, especially Anthony Lynn, you kind of wonder, like, where is he going to kind of land, if you will? Well, when you have a GM at the table, like the Commanders do, right? When you have a Martin Mayhew at the table who's making the decisions, it makes a difference. Because when we talk about color, right, we talk about diversity of race, or we talk about diversity of gender, we also should understand that what that means is not checking a box, but it just means your different experiences give you a different perspective, right? So there's diversity of thought. So there are questions and thought processes or just idiosyncrasies that Martin Mayhew may recognize in the way that Anthony Lynn may communicate a message, or Thomas Brown may communicate a message, where if all the people at the table look the same and they don't look like Thomas Brown and they don't look like Anthony Lynn, those guys may say one thing that is confusing, but could cost them the opportunity to get a coordinator's job or a head coach's job. So I think that where the real win is the fact that now we have 6 African-American GMs. And when you have 6 GMs of color, they're going to bring forth questions that maybe others don't bring forth. And they're going to bring forth candidates that maybe previously would have been considered like, oh yeah, he's good to be a D-line coach, or he's good to be a linebackers coach, but I don't know about DC. I think when you have that person who has diversity of thought, they bring something different to the table. And maybe that's why you're starting to see that. And even maybe for the Falcons. Now, of course, they had Raheem Morris, and he did excellently as the defensive coordinator. But going back to that drawing board, if Steve Wilks is available and you have someone like Terry Fontenot, who A, is a person of color, and B, also has the good fortune of having now been with 2 teams in the NFC South, so he really knows what Steve Wilks can do. Now you can see someone like that get a quality job. And I do consider the DC position with Falcons to be a quality job. You can see that person getting a quality look that much faster, which Jarvis puts him in position to get a head coaching gig that is of quality that much faster.
And that's what you want as an organization, right? Because if you're successful, team's gonna start picking off that tree, right, or picking off your coaching staff, and that's what you want. Because if at the end of the season, if let's just say Steve Wilks gets hired for the Atlanta Falcons, and next thing you know, he's a hot candidate, and at the end of the season, guess why he's a hot candidate? Because the Falcons defense got turned around. They are in the top, maybe they even turn into a top 10 defense. And Terry Fontenot starts to be more apt to spend some money on that defensive side of the football and bring some guys in, like we talked about yesterday, and bringing in those free agents along with those veteran guys that can still, squeeze a little juice out of and get a couple of sacks from them and be contributors to the team. So when you talking about all of these moving parts
Yeah.
at the end of the season, and Wilks is that guy,
He
like,
is.
hey,
Yeah.
he's going to be a hot head coaching candidate because,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and I think a lot of people believe this wholeheartedly, like he got a raw deal out there in Arizona.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, no
because,
question.
you know what I mean? So Cliff
Yeah.
Kingsbury actually had a conversation with Sean McVay, so that make him a doggone head coaching candidate. So
Right.
yeah, but now I feel like when the dude comes in and does the work like he did with
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, they traded away their best player on the roster, and they ended up being
Yes.
in contention for an NFC South Division title up until like
Exactly.
maybe the last month of the season. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
y'all can miss me with all the other stuff about what he didn't do in the past. So, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if this happens, I'd be very happy, and I'm also very happy for guys like a Giro Evero, who's in the second round of interviews, DC for
Nice.
the and our guy
Mm-hmm.
Raheem Morris. He's
Yes.
also in the second round of interviews with the Indianapolis Colts. So yeah, some good stuff happening. It's popping off right here. We hope some good stuff happen to you because coming up next, we're going to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. How did they fall apart in the fourth quarter again? But before we do that, we got to talk about FanDuel because it is our new sports betting partner right here at Locked On.
Yeah.
They're the number one sports book in America. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. Got a
Mm-hmm.
special deal for you. They have so many great features that make sports so much fun, and betting on sports. It makes it so much fun, right? So here we go. Here we got new customers. I need you to join today to get started with $150 in free bets,
Yeah.
guaranteed. All you got to do, drop a little five spot right there, $5 bet, and you get $150 right now. So join. So you can just sign up at fanduel.com/locked on. You trying to figure out what's going on. You trying to win some games, win some money on the games this weekend. The Eagles against the 49ers, the Chiefs against the Cincinnati Bengals. What's the spread? What are the odds? What's the over-under? FanDuel got all of that right there just for you. So here, it's an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what I need you to do, go to fanduel.com/locked on, and you drop a $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in free bets. Win or lose at fanduel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
So Jarvis, I guess you can go home, you can go back home after all, and it works for you, right? Because it worked for Trae Young. He had a really nice all-around game in Oklahoma City last night. And yes, people, Jarvis and I are not sugarcoating. We know that the Hawks had a 15-point lead that they almost blew in the last minute and a half. You go from it goes from 15 points, 5 minutes left, to 9 points with about a minute left, to 1 point. 14.1 seconds left is when, thank goodness, Dejounte Murray did what he did. John Collins did what he did, because you still got to get it done at the charity stripe. And of course, final score is 137-132, and the Hawks get their sixth road win in the last 8 games. But Jarvis, more importantly, while this is not what you really want to have happen, but at least we'll go back to old school like you and I used to do it. The good, the bad, the ugly. So let's start with the ugly. Let's just get it out of the way. What was the ugliest thing for you last night?
Oh, it had to be that when Williams doggone stole the ball from Trae, when I was just like, and the funny thing about that, I think they were up by 7 points, and I was sitting down there watching the game, and my wife, she walked past the television, looked down, and said, "Oh, the Hawks are up. Oh, that's cool." And then as she was walking up the steps, I had my little slick comment as well. Oh, like, man, they about to lose this jump. She just bust out laughing. And I didn't know that I was actually going to be close to being right. I was just being facetious at the time. But
yeah.
And that's when doggone Trae Young got the ball stolen from him, and dude went in there and did his thing. I was just like, come on, man. Not like this to this team, because you're starting to look like these team. And I'm about to start changing my verbiage when I started talking about this team, because it's just like, you are this team. This is who you are. Inconsistent. Because John Collins had an advantage last night when he had guys like Shae Gilgeous-Alexander guarding him in the post and all of this stuff, and had the size advantage over the team. You still fumbling, bumbling, and stumbling on the block. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you nervous? Are you nervous that you're getting the rock right now? So it's just,
After you asked for it, but okay.
After you don't even get me
Sorry,
started.
Jarvis. I just triggered.
You're triggering your folk right now. So, but I think ultimately it was good that they got the win, but like those are the moments that we're starting to get used to. And I hate to say this because even our guy Robert Blackman reached out to ATL Day Ones at gmail.com and was talking
Thank
about
you,
how it's
Robert.
so frustrating. Appreciate you, Robert. We mess with you, bro. But I think that those are some of the things that, like, as Atlanta sports fans, it's just like, man, why do we have to put up with this crap? Like,
Yes.
like, why does my blood pressure have to rise because y'all can't doggone finish out games? Like, this is not, this is unacceptable. And I think that when you have these mental lapses, these are some of the things that you have to kind of focus in on once these games start to get tight. Because when it gets tight, they get tight, and somebody got to do something about it, T.
Exactly. And that goes back to what we said yesterday and what we've been talking about on this show for quite some time, which is in those critical moments, that's when your basketball IQ really starts to show up, because your basketball IQ is going to have to take over in some way, shape, or form when your nerves try to take over.
That term been coming up a lot lately.
Yeah, exactly. Because your basketball IQ should help you to know, oh, they're about to trap me hard, because they're looking for me to turn the ball over, because they know how much Trae Young, and this entire team have been turning the ball over the last couple of games as we've gotten out, and even to some degree towards the end of that 5-game winning streak, right? And then if you even look at the numbers back when they played the Thunder on December 5th, you know what this team is capable of. You know that they like to pick pockets just like you like to pick pockets. So that's what, like you said, that's what was ugly for me. Like, dude, is that what we're really doing here? But I will tell you this, which also kind of, I'll say the bad, and then of course we'll end on the good. But the bad is, it goes to what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong as an Atlanta sports fan to feel triggered like this. The only caveat I would say is that you have a case that's not really as based on your historical perspective of sports PTSD in this city as it is just last season. Jarvis, at this point last season, into February, past trade deadline, past the All-Star break, did we not start saying to ourselves that maybe we should accept the fact that this is a 500 team?
We sure did.
And we finally all figured it out and accepted it and said, okay, we must be
what it is.
gunning for the play-in. It's starting to feel like that again. That's why I don't think you're really just triggered because you're a sports fan in this city. I think you're triggered because you saw this happen last season. Exactly. We have seen this movie before. The only difference is that we have two factors that we didn't have last year. And I'm going to call them good, and you tell me what you think. So I'll call those the good of this. Number one, Dejounte Murray. He did what he came to do in that last 14.1 seconds. When you're out here, pickpocketing, blocking, when you're doing getting to the free throw line and actually making both of your free throws, that's what counts. Yeah, he had a tough way of it the first half. He went to the locker room with 3 fouls, and I was saying to myself, he is the last person who needs to foul out of this game. Because I said second half, he's going to reset himself, and somehow, some way, he's going to make himself the most important piece in this game. And boom, there he was. So I think that's the good of it. You got Dejounte, and that may be why we're not having this 500 conversation the rest of the way of the season. And you got Landry Fields. And you have Landry Fields. This is the first time we're going to see him potentially in season make a critical move or no move at the trade deadline. We know that, or we now know, that he was an instrumental part of the Dejounte Murray trade. So let's give him credit. That's what I think is the good of it, Jarvis. Having DJ and having Landry possibly get us to the finish line towards that trade deadline.
Yeah, and I think when you think about, the story that came out of Athletic about him being open at the trade deadline and not necessarily want to put himself into a box where buyers, sellers, stand patters, like whatever you want to call it, I think that's a good thing. And when you approach the trade deadline like you do, and like this West Coast trip is going to be real. After Saturday against the Clippers, they're going to be out on the road up until the trade deadline. So Landry's going to have plenty of time he probably won't be making this trip. I'll say that to you. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays back in Atlanta and start working those phones or start answering the phones, because we know that John is going to be a guy that's going to be talked about and bandied around. And I think that for him to be able to make the right decision, and I think the right decision may be not to do anything at all, and
Yeah.
kind of ride this bad boy out and come up with a really good deal during the summertime when you don't
Yeah.
have the pressures of the season going on and trying to figure out who you are. If you don't know
Right.
who you are, stand pat.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have plenty of time during the summer months to figure out who you are and make the right
Yes.
deal. So, because that's where I'm at right now. I
Yeah.
want to make the right deal. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily. I know I was really feeling some type of way, and really wanted to push John Collins out the door. But if you're sacrificing getting the best deal,
Yeah.
I think you kind of you fall back, and then you kind of get yourself to get your bearings together in the summertime and try to
Yeah.
figure that bad boy out. Then
Right, because you got a Dejounte Murray from being patient. You could
yeah,
have given away, quote unquote, and it would have been a giveaway
yeah,
to, as far as the Hawks felt like it, at the
yeah.
last trade deadline, and you didn't, because you could never find the trade partner or partners that would give you what you wanted, or that you would get what you wanted from them. Seems like all of the rumors are still the same this year. You just can't find a second or third partner to even make a good three-way trade as it relates to him. And possibly, we don't know yet because we haven't seen more of that piece of the rumors, but possibly someone may be asking just a bit too much and saying, no, it can't just be John Collins and Bogdan Bogdanovic. It has to be a third piece. And if that third piece is AJ Griffin or Onyeka Okongwu, the answer is hell to the no.
No.
And even
Nope.
to DeAndre Hunter, because honestly,
Nah.
just stay
Yeah.
away. And if that's what it's going to take, Jarvis, I agree with you. You may just have to stand pat, because you did last year. And although we may not have liked the play-in round, what we did end up getting was a Dejounte Murray who was not on the block at the trade deadline, but by the end of the year, once the Spurs started deciding that they were going to go in rebuild mode, the Hawks were able to take advantage of that.
Right on there,
maybe, and maybe that could happen again. So people, we just need to keep watching and waiting and just hoping that Landry Fields, being the good, puts the Hawks in the right position, and Dejounte Murray, being the good, puts them in the right position as well to make a run at the playoffs in the back half of the season. Now, if you want to know about all of the inner workings, because this is a national story that everyone is following just as closely as we are, you need to check out Locked On Sports Today. They're following that. And the fact that, Jarvis, we are just a few days away from the AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game. And those, to me, are going to be some amazing games on Sunday. So you want to know about that? Check that out. Or if you want to know about other teams and what they're doing out there, like the situation we found ourselves in where Clint Capella was back, but he was on limited minutes. Now Anthony Davis is back for the Lakers. He's on limited minutes, but how might that affect them for the second half? Check out Locked On Sports Today. They'll let you know what they think. And if you like For the Culture, check out their take of the day. Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Start with ATL Day Ones, in with Locked On Sports Today.
Absolutely. Now, people, listen up. This is an invitation to join the family, the Locked On Sports Atlanta family. Because guess what? We got over 5,300 people that have dedicated themselves to coming to us each and every day. If you want to be a part of that 5,300, go ahead and go to YouTube channel right now. Drop in the search box, Locked On Sports Atlanta. ATL Day Ones will pop up. Or Hitting Hard with John Chuckery will pop up. You check us out right there. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on that bell, the notifications, so you can know when all that heat drops. But this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's how we get down on this show. Today is no different. How about this? I'm calling Netflix to task, T. I'm fed up because, like when you spend your money, like you want to do whatever you want to do, whatever you purchase, right? Like that's just how that's how you roll, right? Like if I buy a car, I'm gonna treat that car how I want to treat that car. Guess what? Why? Because I paid for it. I pay on it monthly. Or if it don't have no note, I paid that money. I dropped that money at that amount of time, saying, "Hey, this is what I'm gonna do with this whip." So Netflix is getting all super nosy because people
all
were sharing Netflix.
Business.
Yeah. All of them folks' business talking about like you can't share your passwords, and we trying to do this and do all that because so we can invest back. Here's the funny part, T. They said they want to stop people from sharing their passwords because so they can be able to invest back into their company and their products. I was like, bull crap.
Yeah.
Like just keep it funky, keep it a buck. Like, I don't mind you telling me the truth. You want to doggone do that because you think you're gonna gain a customer by telling them they can't use somebody else's password.
Right.
But here's the real. If they doggone wasn't willing to spend the money before, what makes you think they're gonna spend it now? That you telling them what they can't do with their homeboy or their brother password who kind of get funky with me? Now I'm entering myself into the conversation.
Oh, okay. I said, wait a minute. It got a little bit. It got chilly in here, boy. Jarvis got personal with it. Whoa! I was like, Jarvis is throwing shade for Jarvis for the Davis household.
So full disclosure, right? You know how like I bring y'all into the back closet right now. So I'm having a conversation with my brother one day, T. And somehow, how sometimes when stuff gets knocked out or they log out or something power goes out. And I was borrowing my brother's Netflix password and log in and stuff. So it got logged out. We got logged out. Long story short, I got logged out, and I hit my brother up, and I called him. I was like, "Hey, bro, I need your password for the Netflix." His doggone butt. Well, Netflix starting to crack down on people sharing their passwords. I was like, I almost said something just now.
Right.
Like, I ain't gonna say what I said to him on the phone, but I think you got a good idea of what I said. The first word that came out of my mouth.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sitting up here like, see what you doing, Netflix? You breaking up happy homes. You tripping. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
And mind your doggone business. Mind your business. It's my business if I want to share my password with somebody.
Yeah.
And guess what? You ain't gonna gain no new customer by doing that either way. They're just gonna go somewhere else and try to get for free.
They really
Come
will.
on now.
Right. And the thing of it is, real talk, a lot of people who share those passwords, they're going to pass on a little dollar to their family member, right?
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'll shoot you 10 here, 20 there, whatever, for you allowing me to use my password. I'm not saying it's right, but Netflix, we're just trying to keep it real and help you to understand the reality of what you're asking of people.
Yeah, come on,
and literally, they might say, well, you know what? If you're going to try to make me pay for this service all out of my own pocket, I don't care how much the service is. It might be the principle of it. Well, I'm not doing it. As opposed to Amazon Prime, which will allow you to have up to 3 devices that you can legally utilize under that same umbrella.
Yep.
It works. Yeah. Like, why don't you do what they're doing? It's almost like Amazon has kind of like a Walmart process or, mindset or approach to theirs where it's like in bulk, whereas Netflix is trying to be a little bit too much of a boutique. Okay. Okay, Netflix.
Acting like your product all day.
I was about to say, and your product is, it's solid, and granted, I'm not a TV or movie person, but whatever. Good luck with that. I just really, Jarvis, let's see what a month from now, 3 months from now, let's see what this conversation is, because I don't think this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, and apparently they are going to start enforcing this in the spring. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Whatever.
We're going to keep an eye. Also, another eye that we're going to keep on is this, Mr. Let me see, make sure I got his name right. Mr. Marcus Stokes, just received an offer from Albany State University.
Marcus.
Mr. Marcus Stokes. For those you don't know, he is the young man that got caught on video, rapping the lyrics to a song, and he dropped the word that you're not supposed to use. Starts with an N, ends with an A. Depending on who's saying.
Or ER. Just
or ER.
Depending
on who you talk to. If you use the ER or the A and you look like Mr. Stokes, you probably you shouldn't use. You shouldn't be repeating those words. So, but here's the thing though. All seriousness though. At the end of the day, T, this is my school. I ain't got no problem with Coach Gray extending the man an offer.
Yeah.
Now, however, if that offer turns into a signed letter of intent, let me tell you something, Mr. Stokes. You better be ready.
Yes.
Because it ain't gonna be no politically correct type of way you're gonna be approached about this situation.
Yeah.
Like, I would promise you, I don't even know the cat's name on the team, but I know player X will approach you, and you're gonna have to answer some real questions, dog.
Yes.
I'm telling you, because things are a little different at HBCUs versus the PWI. Like, you can talk about the conditions and all that stuff, but guess what? You can count on when you step on campus on that football field at any HBCU. Because I've interacted with a lot of guys who played. It's real. It's real. Ain't no politically correct stuff going on. And I'm telling you, you better be ready to answer that question. And it better be right. I just keep it at that, sir.
Yeah. And be prepared for questions from the media. Be prepared for questions from parents. Be prepared for questions coming at you from every direction, because it literally begs the question of, okay, the guy who dropped the NIGG is the guy you offered a letter to come to the black school after he dropped the worst word you can. Although, like we said, he was rapping a song. It was a part of, just the lyrics, but also you need to think about what many have said. John B. I just saw him in concert a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about the things he does not do. And he is a man with a black wife and with biracial children. And there's words he doesn't say and things he doesn't do. Eminem, who had a white wife, and still he is like, I'm a white male, and there are certain things that I don't do out of respect for my black friends, out of respect for my black colleagues in this industry, just because. And quote unquote, those are the individuals that allegedly would get the pass, or like our guy, who might be the wokest dude I've ever met, Andy. Our guy, Andy. Andy even went in like, no, to just no. So like you said, coach and the athletic department director and the president of the university, everybody in leadership needs to be prepared that if this young man, if Marcus Stokes decides to sign on the dotted line, be ready for the questions, because they're going to come early and often.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what I'm waiting on. Like, I don't care about offers. Offers don't mean anything to me. That's for social media. Sorry. That's what that is. So once he signed that letter of intent, bro, we're gonna have a talk. Yeah. Okay, how good you are. Anyway, but we want to say this though. Thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And also, wherever you download your podcast, check out Locked On Sports today. Make that your second listen. They got a lot of good stuff. They talking about all the good national news. They might be talking about Mr. Stokes as well. So, yeah, we want you to make sure you do that. And you can find it wherever you find this podcast. Folks, if you don't do anything in life, make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.